Dear students, welcome to the second part of Unit 3 of Medium, Small and Micro Enterprise Management of III BBA 6th semester. I am Dr. Ravi Verma, Associate Professor, Department of Commerce and Management Studies, Sanjeev College of Arts and Sciences, Kakinada. In part 1, we had a discussion about the finance function and sources of finance in third unit. Now the important contents to be covered in this session are about incentives and subsidies and venture capital. Let us discuss about subsidies. What is subsidy? What is the meaning of subsidy? Subsidy is a financial statement or sum of money provided by a government to an industry for public welfare or interest. It is any form of financial aid or grant or contribution, whatever financial assistance given by the government can be termed as either subsidy or incentive. Subsidy means a single lump sum of money that is given by a government to an entrepreneur to cover a certain portion of cost of establishment of the unit. What are the advantages of incentives and subsidies? Incentives and subsidies act as a motivational force which makes the potential entrepreneur to enter into business activities. Always business is associated with certain risk and uncertainty. This kind of incentives or financial assistance or subsidies provided by the government will encourage entrepreneurs to start the business and to take a particular risk zone business activities. Incentives and subsidies encourage the entrepreneurs to start industries in the backward areas. Generally, industries or units set up in backward areas attract more incentives and subsidies provided by the government rather than the units established in developed areas. Because the government priority is to balance the regional development, which is there in the third advantage. Both second and third points are interrelated. So government is offering higher subsidies and incentives to the units which are to be established or which are to be initiated in backward areas. The prime motto is to balancing the regional development. Incentives and subsidies help to develop new enterprise which lead to economic development. As more and more enterprises are coming, overall economic development is possible, because as we discussed in unit 1, many micro, small and medium enterprises are labor intensive units. They provide huge employment. Around 92% of the labor force is working in unorganized units in small and medium enterprises. So this is a huge number again. So it helps in developing overall economy of the country. Incentives and subsidies make the entrepreneurs to face competition. One second. Yeah. So nowadays, small and medium enterprises are competing with many large enterprises, many MNCs, foreign companies, many substitute products. So this financial assistance can make them breathe and making pricing of the product or service more competitive and exist in the society. And they help to reduce the overall problems of small scale enterprises. Plethora of problems we discussed in unit number 1. Financial assistance or subsidies and incentives are one kind of relief to those problems of micro, small and medium enterprises. What is the need for incentives and subsidies by the government? First one is to remove regional disparities in development. Many regional disparities will be there. Some regional areas are more developed and some are less developed, backward areas. They become backward areas. So government is trying to provide certain incentives to entrepreneurs who to encourage them to start their business activities in backward areas, so that people who are in that region will get employment and equal or regional development, balanced regional development is possible. Second is to provide competitive strength, survival and growth for micro, small and medium enterprises. Third one is to generate more employment and remove unemployment. As we discussed earlier, many micro, small and medium enterprises are labor intensive units. They need less capital, they run with more manpower, they need less technological advancements, less amount and machinery, so they generate high employment. So unemployment problem will be solved to certain extent and to provide entrepreneurship. More and more people will be encouraged to start the entrepreneurship by providing financial assistance to them. What are the problems related to subsidies? A subsidy may remain unutilized. A certain portion of subsidies provided by the government may not be distributed properly to the entrepreneurs or enterprises. There is a lag in the bureaucratic system. That is one aspect. And second aspect is people who start business may not use these subsidies properly. That is the second aspect of this problem. Next one is, if the administration is inefficient or corrupt, subsidy will not produce the desired results. Financial assistance or subsidies cannot guarantee the success of business or encouragement of entrepreneurs because of the inefficient administrative system prevail in the society. Third one is, it is very difficult to measure the impact of subsidies. There is an indirect relationship between subsidies provided by the government and the success of the entrepreneurs in the small and medium enterprises. There is no direct correlation exists between if the subsidies increase, the business success will be higher, or if the subsidies decrease, the business success will be lower. There is no such correlation is found in many studies, so it is very difficult to measure the impact of subsidies on business success. And subsidies may lead to inefficiency in the long run. Definitely in short run, subsidies and incentives are helpful to promote entrepreneurship in the country, but in long term they may become burden because of the inefficient administration in the country. Subsidies once introduced are difficult to withdraw. Once the subsidies and incentives are introduced to the entrepreneurs, they will be habituated to use the subsidies and incentives, and certain structure is formed and certain system is formed with certain lags which could be difficult to withdraw once it is introduced in the system. The administrative procedures must be effective before implementing the subsidies and incentives. The cost of administrating a subsidy should also be considered before introduction of subsidies and incentives to the entrepreneurs, because there are certain hierarchy levels which have to be passed on to reach the ultimate beneficiaries. The subsidy scheme should be communicated to prospective beneficiaries properly, otherwise it will lead to mismanagement of subsidies and incentives. The quantum of subsidy should be adequate to produce the desired results. If it is more, obviously people or entrepreneurs will get habituated to take the freebies. If they are less, entrepreneurs will get demotivated to start the business. It has to be adequate to produce the desired results. The target groups to whom the subsidy is to be benefited should be clearly determined. Definitely subsidies and incentives are helpful to the entrepreneurs, but these are the certain problems to be kept in mind before introduction of subsidies and incentives to micro, small and medium enterprises. What are the various government subsidy schemes and incentive schemes available in India? First one is the Credit Guarantee Fund scheme for micro, small and medium enterprises. Schemes, generally these benefits or subsidies or incentives are vary from industry to industry. There are certain specific schemes available for each industry. Let us discuss each one. First one is government subsidy for small businesses for organic farming. This subsidy is meant for organic farming sector. And second one is technology upgradation fund scheme is for textile industry. Scheme for technological upgradation or establishment or modernization for food processing industries. This particular subsidy scheme is available for all food processing units. Next one is integrated development of leather sector. This is a special scheme designed for leather industry. And credit linked capital subsidy scheme is available for technical upgradation of any micro, small and medium enterprises. Various marketing development assistance schemes are available for micro, small and medium enterprises under NSIC schemes, National Small Industrial Corporation. Then technology and quality upgradation support for MSMEs. Mini tools room and training center schemes are available for various sectors. Government subsidy for small businesses from NSIC, again National Small Industrial Corporation. Government subsidy for small businesses for cold chain. Certain agro products and food processing units require cold storage facilities because of the perishability of the nature of products manufactured or produced in agriculture sector. So cold chain units will attract certain subsidies from the government. A special scheme is designed for coconut products, which is a huge subsidy scheme. Sampeda scheme is available for agro-marine producing processing, and government subsidy for small businesses in dairy farming. This is a special scheme for dairy sector, and government subsidy for small businesses in horticulture. These are the various subsidy schemes, important subsidy and incentive schemes available in India. Now let us discuss about the a different source of finance, which is a unique source of finance, which is called as venture capital. What is venture capital? Venture capital refers to the money provided by investors to start up firms and small businesses with perceived long-term growth potential. It typically entails high risk for the investors, but it has the potential for above average returns. Not above average returns, it can produce huge returns if the business is success. What is venture capital? This is also called as seed capital. Many investors want to invest in small businesses at the time of introduction stage, idea generation stage, or initial stages to gain huge returns. They take part in the equity portion of the enterprise when the size of the business is small, when it is newly established, and once it is in growth phase. The venture capital firms want to exit from the business with huge profits. That is the general pattern of business pattern of venture capital firms. That is the strategy of venture capital firms. So what is the importance and role of venture capital firms? First one is for promotion of the enterprise. Once a reputed venture capital firm invests in a business, automatically the small business which is not known to many people, the fame and name of the business will be once exposed to a certain extent because of the investment made by a reputed venture capital firm. So promotion of the enterprise is possible through venture capital. Second one is encouragement to entrepreneurship. Many entrepreneurs have ideas but not sufficient capital. So these venture capital firms provide necessary capital to the entrepreneurs to convert the idea into a reality. Third one is performance of economic activities. So money will be transferred from surplus to needed. So this is nothing but basic concept of economics. So economic activity is possible through venture capital. Fourth one is management and organization. Venture capital firms use various strategies while investing in small businesses. Some venture capital firms may undergo an agreement with that they also take part in the idea generation and implementation of ideas. The role of certain venture capital firms are restricted to providing equity capital. Certain venture capital firms undergo an agreement with the entrepreneurs to take part in management decisions. It depends on the agreement between mutual understanding between the venture capital firm and as well as the entrepreneur. Next, dominance of desired skill and competencies. The entrepreneur may be technically very strong, but he may be weak in certain areas of managerial aspects. But these venture capital firms, by nature, they are strong in administration and management concepts. They provide certain assistance to the entrepreneur to get success in the business. Next one is fulfillment of financial requirements of high risk entrepreneurs. Always any business would be exposed to higher risk in initial stages. These venture capital firms are ready to invest in these businesses in initial stages. That means they are ready to take huge risks, so their expected returns will also be higher. Now, representation of funds incorporated in new enterprise. Next, assistance in strategy formulation. Venture capital firms assist entrepreneurs in formulating certain strategies in competitive businesses. Next, possibility of rapid development and expansion. Finance is generally, it can become burden to the enterprise for enhancement when the financial support is more in terms of venture capital firms. Obviously, there is a high possibility of rapid development and expansion for the business. Assistance of venture capital in various stages of business can be categorized into 4 types. in idea generation stage, startup stage, ramp up stage, and exit. Certain venture capital firms want to take part in from the stage of idea generation. They want to convert the idea into reality. They completely take part in technicalities and administration. That assistance is called as idea generation stage. Startup, in the sense, once the idea is converted into reality, once it is ready to commercialize, the venture capital enters into that zone and it gives financial assistance to the entrepreneurs. If that is the strategy of venture capital firm, it is called as startup stage. And third one is ramp up stage. The business is already started, but for enhancement they need huge funds which are not available with the enterprises, so they are dependent on venture capital firms. Later stages, venture capital firm enters into that and fulfills the financial requirements of the business, and that assistance is called as ramp up. And exit, once the business is successful, generally venture capital firms exit from the business when it reaches the maturity levels, or in growth stage itself. They just want to come out of the business and they want to invest in another budding enterprise. So this is the strategy of venture capital firms. There are 4 basic categories in assistance of venture capitalists to micro, small and medium enterprises. That is idea generation, startup stage, ramp up stage, and exiting from the business. What are the disadvantages of venture capital firms? As we discussed earlier, management positions is the first aspect, where venture capital firms expect a key role in management positions, which may not be a desirable thing for entrepreneurs or promoters. And second one is equity positions. Some venture capital firms want to take the steering seat by acquiring more and more control on equity capital. More than 51% or 52% will be invested by venture capital, and once it is done, majority portion will be in the control of venture capital firm, not in the hands of promoter. Third one is decision making. More venture capital firms want to take decision making power, because they are also taking part of risk, so they want some management control, which may not be liked by many entrepreneurs. And fourth one is business plans. There may be certain divergence in the opinions of promoter and as well as venture capital firms. Their perspectives may be different basically, so there will be certain lag in understanding business plans. And next one is, there may be certain divergence in funding plans also between a promoter and as well as venture capital firms. Venture capital funds available in India. This can be categorized as 5 categories. First one is venture capital firms promoted by the central government controlled development financial institutions. Second one, venture capital firms promoted by state government controlled development financial institutions. Third one, venture capital firms promoted by public sector banks. Fourth category is venture capital firms promoted by private sector banks. And fifth one, last but not least, is venture capital firms promoted by foreign institutions. Let us look at the first category, venture capital firms promoted by the central government controlled development financial institutions. Examples for this category are SIDBI Venture Capital Firm or Venture Capital Limited. SIDBI means Small Industrial Development Bank of India, which is promoted by Venture Capital Limited, is promoted by SIDBI. Second one is IFCI Venture Capital Fund Limited. Institutional Financial Corporation of India is a full form of IFCI. This venture capital fund is promoted by the institution called IFCI. Second category is venture capital firms promoted by state government controlled development financial institutions. Examples are Gujarat Venture Finance Limited, which is introduced or promoted by state government of Gujarat. Kerala Venture Capital Fund Private Limited, which is promoted by the government of Kerala. Punjab Infotech Venture Fund, which is promoted by government of Punjab. Hyderabad Information Technology Venture Enterprises Limited, which is promoted by the government of Telangana. These are the examples of the venture capital funds which are promoted by various state governments in the country. Third one is venture capital firms are schemes promoted by public sector banks. Examples are Can Bank Venture Capital Fund, which is promoted by Canara Bank. SBI Capital Markets Limited, which is promoted by State Bank of India. Now, venture capital firms are not promoted by central government, state government, and public sector banks. They are also promoted by private limited companies also. ILNFS Truest Company Limited is the best example for this category, and Infinity Venture India Fund is also one more example for venture capital firms promoted by private institutions. And Overseas Venture Capital Fund is the last category in this venture capital firms. First one is Walden International Investment Group, SFAF India Investment and Growth Fund, BTS India Private Equity Fund Limited are certain examples for this category. These are the various categories of venture capital firms promoted by central government, state government, public sector banks, private institutions, and as well as overseas institutions. This is basically about the concept of venture capital. Remaining concepts in Unit 3 will be discussed in the next session. Thank you so much for your patience listening. Thank you very much.